Okay, so very warm welcome to all our viewers and all those who are joining us live from all over. Thank you for taking up time to join us today. It is a privilege today to have with us Dr. Shanti, who doesn't need any introduction. She is very well known in Malaysia as a very talented and very experienced senior heartfulness trainer from our country, Malaysia. So um, it is really a wonderful topic that she's going to present to us today. And the topic is titled Vrittis. We were just having a discussion, I think last week, just before the Bandara, and she mentioned that she was preparing and working on this topic on Vrittis. And a few days later, beloved Daji, his Bandara messages was stressing and emphasizing a lot on this same topic. So after the Bandara, I called her and said, let's do it. And so it was planned for today. So I hope it will be very well received, and it is very timely, and we thank her for also thinking along the same lines with Revered Daji and preparing this session for us. So just a couple of information and house rules. Please keep yourselves on mute throughout the session. And if you have something to ask or something to say, please raise your hands or put it in the chat box, and we'll probably pick it up. And this session will also be followed by guided 9 p.m. universal prayer, also conducted by Sister Dr. Shanti. So there may be a break depending on how the session goes. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you throughout the session. So Sister Dr. Shanti, over to you. And thank you and welcome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's here. Warm greetings and a very good evening. I first must thank Master, number one, because all this, whatever I'm going to speak, it is all his teaching. It's nothing beyond that. Of course, I did look at Google Swamiji and Swamini for some additional things, but mainly it is all there in the Heartfulness magazine, which, as I said, why maybe we'll talk about what led me to that. But first, let us center ourselves. So let us do the centering. Let us close our eyes. Let us go within our hearts. To that sacred space within our hearts, and let us connect to that source of wisdom which is already in our hearts. Let us try to recall the morning meditation condition. And let us connect ourselves to Master. Let us pray for his well-being and for his health. May he be guiding us through this session so that we may imbibe and understand his teachings. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. So let me start with the story on King Bharata. He was very self-controlled, and he had devoted his mind towards the Supreme Lord. At the end of his rule, he actually retired to the forest, and he was very much wanting to have self-knowledge. So he was very, very regular. He was doing his sadhana so well, and he was attaining all the states. So one day he went to the river, and there he saw a deer, a mother deer, who, when she got startled, she gave birth to that baby deer, a baby deer. And the baby deer fell into the water. And then he, seeing that, he picked it up to save it and took it home. And from then, he was starting to look after, feed it. He had to do so many things for it. And he grew and became attached. And when the moment of death came and he lay down, and instead of the mind that was completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord all this time, his mind went to that baby deer. Who is going to look after this deer when I go? And he died. So when he took his free birth, he was born as a deer, but he had that wisdom, he had that knowledge, he had retained that knowledge, and he knew that what had happened. And so in this second birth, he was very careful, and he was always near to the sages. And he, from there it goes, the story goes, I won't go on. So that is got a 3-part story. So this is in my mind about what the Gita says, that whenever one remembers what we remember while leaving the body, that is what he gets in the next life, and what is we are constantly thinking. So that was the one that started thinking, how do we, what are we at the time of death, which we don't know, which we, whether we really accept that we don't know when it's going to come, or we just think it's far away. So at that time, what are the thoughts there? Is that a vritti? What kind of, thought I was thinking about? And that made me look up about Vrittis, because I didn't really understand it earlier, so I wanted to know more about it. And so I started reading that. And regarding leaving the body, all our masters have said you can't be in a meditative state suddenly when you want to leave the body, unless you have been practicing it all the time. Or as Buddha says, if if a tree grows inclined in a certain direction, and so when it falls, it's also going to fall in that direction. And Babuji has also stressed so much that at the time of death, the master can do so much for us. If you remember him all the time, or you have remembered him all the time, he will come to take you. And that is the liberation that we get. So it's not a more morbid subject. You think, what is that to do with that? I think it's the way you die rightly, that it is a very positive thing. Live rightly and die rightly. So how do we, so it starts with this yogic psychology. From the ancient science of Raja Yoga, in this book, in case I want to know where it is, it's in this book. And there's so many articles, and it's full over there, but I've done only actually the Vrittis, which are 5. Let me share my slide. Are you able to see the slide? Can unmute and are you all able to unmute? All thumbs up. You can show your beautiful faces also. It's fine. Thank you. Okay. So this is This is on yogic psychology from the ancient science of Raja Yoga, and it has been codified by Sage Patanjali. Actually, we have not received the Yoga Sutras now. If it was here, it would be, I'm sure, much more information we can get. But in this series, which Daji has written on, he has explained on the 5 Vrittis, and more importantly, actually, he gives us the solutions. We may know all this, but what is the use when we know and we don't have the solution? So he's given us that solutions to create the mental well-being. So yoga always starts with the baseline where the mind is very balanced and in the original condition, that pure vibration, less, no vibration, vibrationless state. And then Patanjali goes on to explore why these modifications and related vibrations occur. So the 5 vrittis are the types of thought that, or patterns or tendencies that they are play of energy in our consciousness. And Chit also absorbs some of the prana, universal energy, and it throws out his thoughts. So this vrittis is actually whirlpools. The name, it means whirlpools. Vrittis means whirlpools. And they are the waves and ripples that form in us, in our consciousness. And it is the interplay of our senses and our tendencies. I think Master used the word pravritti, our tendencies, and draw us out into the experience and emotional reactions that we get. Of course, the 3 gunas are also at play here, that sattva and rajas and tamas, but we won't go into that. And so all this join and form our nature, which is prakriti. Right. So here it's written here: the more turbulent the ocean, the harder to see the ocean floor, which can be equated to the self or the soul. So, except for self-knowledge, every other thing that we know is through vrittis. Everything that we want to know has to be through vrittis. When you read a book, the book vritti, you read computer, maybe computer vritti, or the way we want to perceive, the way we emote, everything is actually by the modification of the mind. This reflected consciousness, actually, it makes us from the mind, it makes us aware of it, and then it illumines it, and then it reveals what it is. So we study a book, so the consciousness illuminates, and it starts a vritti, and then you start knowing that. But self-knowledge is something else. So when we are enlightened, it's not because of vritti, but we use vrittis to turn inwards. We use the vrittis to turn ourselves inwards. So in 24 hours of the day, you're not only doing your work, you're doing you may be washing dishes or looking at doing things, but you're also dwelling in the past, and you're also imagining the future and dabbling it with expectations and hopes. And those vibrational patterns, they would go into the subtle body and they affect our mind, our behavior, and it becomes hardwired, actually, becomes part of us. So what does whatever we dwell more, our mind dwells more, whether it's positive or negative, then your attention, you're going to give that power. Every function of the mind, as we know, if you look at the artificial intelligence, you think they also may be having their own vritti, I don't know what it is, but they can mimic everything that we do, except for this. being witness and experiencing it. Otherwise, you could say they could do everything as well. Right. So let's go on. So Vrittis are colored or they are uncolored. You can straight away see here it's impure. Colored, he means impure, and which lands up in bondage. And uncolored, it is pure freedom, because it is with stillness. And this is Babuji's quote. One must become colorless while playing with colors. Nice one. Right. So these are the 5 Vrittis. We have Pramana, which is right knowledge. Viparyaya, sorry, there's a small mistake there, wrong knowledge. Vikalpa, fantasy or imagination. Nidra, which is deep sleep. And Smriti, memory. So these are the 5. So why do we want to stop the modifications? Why not we go on with modification? Because, okay, it's quite obvious that we want the witness consciousness to turn towards the seat of the soul, the seat of the self. Otherwise, we'll just go on identifying with those vrittis, whatever, whatever thoughts we want at random and what we perceive falsely. So we want to stop those modifications so that we can turn towards the seat of the self. And it is not that, we must become still or, no activity. I mean, there's stillness, like you said, yoga, no waves. I mean, still, we will die, of course. If we don't do anything, we will just be still in the mind. So heartfulness teaches us that soul is happy when you have movement, activity, provided there is simplicity and there's purity and there's lightness, lightness within, underlying there's stillness, but all these are there. And we know that you just have to be deeply connected within, but yet carry on our usual things that we need to do. So yoga is a way to disidentify yourself from the body and the external identification and just remain as a witness. It is we who need to refine and generate our vrittis from within. So you'll be being in touch with that reality and create our destiny. So can this be maybe thought of as yoga is skill in action? Because we are going to refine, we are going to generate our vrittis from ourselves within, being in touch with that reality and create our destiny. So let's look at Pramana. This is true knowledge, and it is uncolored, and it leads to freedom. So how do we gain the true knowledge? It is by perception, direct perception, by deduction and inference, by words of the awakened ones. So let's look at direct perception. The first way, it's absolute knowing that comes with an illuminated mind. If our superconscious is awakened, then you will have that perception, the true perception. And it can happen spontaneously, or it can be cultivated and developed through spiritual practice. Higher wisdom and revelation comes very naturally in the state of inner balance or samadhi as a result of meditation, especially in heartfulness meditation, aided by pranahuti or transmission. It brings us to this balance. The second one is by outer perception or observation. So we learned also from Daji that observation is an act, and it is that observer he has a goal or he wants a certain outcome. So it is not really passive. But witnessing is very passive. Perfect observation, it requires you to be so subtle than whatever it is being observed. And how do we get there? Humility. Humility at its pinnacle creates this neutrality and subtlety. When we are very subtle, in a subtle state, and when we witness things, we don't interfere with them. The mind is incapable of pure witnessing. So who witnesses? The Supreme Purusha in this body is also called the witness. Third way to gain true knowledge is absorbing the teachings of enlightened ones, the gurus. And this is why we actually search for enlightened teachers and read the books, read the scriptures. And finally, based on the heart signals, we need to conclude for ourselves. So the common factor in all the three, if you want, if it's supposed to be, is having a pure field of consciousness. All three, it can be a success if you have a pure field of consciousness. So here, in our system, we have the practice of cleaning in heartfulness, and it removes all these impressions that accumulate in our system from past experiences, and also the ones that we are creating in the present. And we cultivate constant remembrance, and that follows from meditation, so that our consciousness remains centered while we go about the normal activities. So when the waves of the Vrittis settle, and when we are calm, as it happens during meditation with transmission, then we see our true nature. So at the time of meditation, the witness abides in itself, and it rests in its own true essence, its true nature. So with the daily practices of heartfulness, we are able to remove these emotionally reactive states from our system and remain connected with the inner center of stillness, even when we are not meditating. How still or active is this field of consciousness is? That means it will determine if you're going to be right thinking or wrong thinking, how active or how attentive you're going to pay attention to that. Then it determines how we perceive this universe. And that is what will bring us lasting peace or joy. So this is the one that everybody knows: mastery of the mind and cessation of the turbulence of the mind is yoga. The body also needs to be still, isn't it? The mind won't be still if our body is not still. So there comes all the Ashtanga Yoga, asana and all that one, everything applies. And how do we gain mastery? With the daily practices of heartfulness. So we'll go to the next one. The next one is Viparyaya. Viparyaya is wrong knowledge. Patanjali says wrong knowledge or illusion is the false understanding that results from perceiving things as other than what they really are. Like this, perfectly mirrored. If you don't know, you think that is the real one, or that is the real one. We have, it's an illusion. So most of the time, what are we doing? We are putting our illusions on others. We will have our feelings, our views, and then you think that is how they are. And we have, we actually put it on others. We may feel we are not getting respect, or maybe we don't respect ourselves. Or you feel they are being arrogant and mistreating you, but actually, they may be not. It's just our own illusions or delusions in how we perceive things. And how do they get distorted? Most obvious ones, of course, those drugs and alcohol, all that, of course, that is totally distorted. Otherwise, other things such as prejudice or fear, anger, stress, all this we project on people. And this is illusion or wrong knowledge. So anything that blurs that clarity and purity of the chakras in the region of the heart, Master has been telling umpteen times, the 5 C's, it will all lead us towards false knowledge. Okay? And when the heart is burdened by impressions of the past, which is known as samskaras, then it is putting lenses of colored glass in front of the candle flame, or as the Atman. We are covering up the Atman and it cannot be reflected, it cannot illuminate us. So these filters pop up anytime unannounced, isn't it? So they come when you don't expect it, and all these funny thoughts come. And you didn't call them, but they just came. And then, so we are then in that cycle of illusion. So, Master, I will just read what Daji has, I think, in his flyer given. The biases we experience in our lives are worse because we have multiple filters obscuring our perception. So our filters lie so deep that our soul carries them along with our consciousness from one life to another life. Moreover, these filters simply pop up unannounced when the light of reality is prevented from entering our consciousness. We live in darkness, a kind of hell. That is from, I think, his Heartful Perception, the message he gave. So when we are carrying such a heavy burden of samskaras in our subconscious mind, then we will struggle to follow the way of right knowledge. Because despite our best efforts, we get confused. There's a distortion of knowledge, and your base will be unstable. The foundation of perception is shaky. And so many of us become frustrated because no matter how we try, we want to do the right thing, but often things go wrong. So difficult to make wise decisions when perceptions are shaky. So like this example of the elephant is conditioning. So, with conditioning, we lose our perspective. The main thing is we are unable to witness our own strength. We are confused. We think we are weak. The comparison of these first two Vrittis, Pramana and Viparyaya, highlights the importance of maintaining a pure consciousness, Chitta Shuddhi. That is why, again, the practice of cleaning in heartfulness is to remove all these impressions. And with this comes the clarity and discernment known as Viveka. And when we start to experience the discipline of yoga, we have those glimpses of inner stillness, and we are able to journey towards our center and experience that Pramana directly. Our heart becomes the guiding compass, and we learn to listen to the heart. So that time we experience psychological well-being. So the first step, what is the first step here? Anybody like to try? You can write on the chat if you like. Yeah. Anybody like, what is the first step we need to do? Okay, I'll tell you lah. It's to acknowledge your current state. Acknowledge our current state and accept that we need to be centered in stillness. So to reduce all this Vrittis, wrong knowledge, and unhappiness, feeling of lack, feeling of not even knowing your strength. So first we acknowledge our state and then accept that we need to be centered in stillness. And for that we have all our heartfulness practices. So okay, we will go to the next one, which is Vikalpa. Vikalpa is imagination. Vikalpa is imagination. Just 1 second, please. Right. So the third vritti is Vikalpa, which means imagination or fantasy. And it is necessary, of course, for creativity or innovation and discovery, but it can also lead us through a spiral of delusion. So Vikalpa is, as in the slide written, is a lowest form of imagination. It describes the apparently random fantasies that continuously surface in our mind. Right, so let's look at Vikalpa. This third, the fantasy or imagination is a thought pattern, and it has verbal expression and knowledge, but there's no object or reality. This is what Patanjali said. There's no object or reality, but we have verbal expression, we have knowledge, and there's a thought pattern, and we can even imagine it. Then there are 4 Sanskrit words that can be loosely translated as imagination. That is Vikalpa, which is Kalpana, Pratibha, Bhavana. And we earlier saw Vikalpa is the lowest form of imagination. These are like, when Vikalpa, when you're maybe in school, when you look out the window and all kinds of fantasy you were having in your mind and daydreaming instead of listening to the teacher. Or even now, maybe you may be having some daydream while you're listening to me. So it could be just going on there. Or it's maybe things like we say, what will happen when we have nothing to do, or what will happen if this happens. Then from there we'll make a whole story about it. Or we'll think about somebody and think that what if she doesn't like me? What if I approach her? What's going to happen? And it goes to so that's another thing. But it's all fancy. There may be not any reality in it. So, and also another one that Vikalpa is that when we pass through any kind of environment, some environment, make us feel fearful. Maybe something has happened and it affects us. We are easily affected by it. So some maybe ghost we feel, or some criminal has happened, we feel uneasy. So that is the Vikalpa. Now look at Kalpana. These are the nobler purpose. Kalpana is intentional mental creation. For example, a prayerful suggestion that all people are becoming peace-loving, and that is an example. So what are we going to do later on, the universal prayer? So that is Kalpana. It helps us to aspire towards a goal or vision and reminds us to work to achieve that goal. Now, Pratibha is a spontaneous or visionary insight. It is your inner compass, and it comes from, it's like an intuitive flash. You get suddenly inspiration. It's from your expanding consciousness into the higher realms of superconsciousness. And the last one, Bhavana, It's the ability to call something into existence as a result of yogic contemplation and visioning. Like we visualize when we do our practice, we visualize the divine, we visualize love, we visualize peace. So that is bhavana. So these are all things that we are using in our practice. Right, so let's go to the next. What allows us to imagine something that does not even exist? So to imagine is one of the distinguishing human qualities, representing new possibilities, allowing us to create a vision for the future, like you went to the moon and we did so many things, because the mind follows the imagination and is able to powerfully project it. So in its highest form, it is very visionary and inspiring, right? Like Daji has created this beautiful Kanha. It is visionary and it is inspiring. So what actually allows us to imagine something that does not exist? The four mental functions of Chit, Manas, Buddhi, and Ahankar, they may allow us to think of new concepts, but they cannot create something new out of nothing. Without this Atman, At, movement, Man, thinking. So we need this Atman to create this, for creation. Right? It is this divine aspect of our being that is able to create. That's from our soul. So, but what are we doing? Our imagination may be up to this only, saying that what are we going to eat, or maybe thinking what medicine we have to take, or maybe after this what dinner, what time she's going to finish, or something like that. So this Vikalpa is the background fantasy in our field of consciousness. It creates constant noise in the system, and it blurs clarity and purity of the chakras in the region of the heart. And always the mind is trying to purify itself, so it keeps throwing them out, and they surface out as noise or the thoughts in our mind. So heartfulness cleaning, our practices, they come to our help, really. They really clean and remove the root cause, because you can't just, the effect can't get rid of the effect. We have to get rid of the root force, root of it. So Abhyasi do their work, and the master cleans the very bottom of the mind lake from where the waves start. So we need to let go, just simply witness them arise and leave. There's no need to analyze. There's no need to understand, experience effects of these impressions. So in what way we can make use of that these fantasies that arise in our thoughts? How can we, what is the use, or how can we make use of them? We can actually be aware of them and then work to refine our character. That is swadhyaya, self-study. In yoga, it is known as swadhyaya ashtanga. In Ashtanga Yoga, there we can work to refine our character. There could be a disconnect of our values and our life. Our thoughts, find the convictions, and we make our personalities into, so many things. But we do not transform those values into our lives. We want to, it's there. We aspire, but sometimes they don't transform into our lives. So how and what actions and what are words Viveka will help. That's one first thing. And then self-study. And we have this gap that Master keeps talking about, that small moment of pause where you can make the choice or the correct action or the correct thought. Or somehow even habit will be faster than that gap. So you have to watch out for it and do your self-study, regular sadhana, and the Lord's grace is always on us when we want to change our faults and want to change. Because nobody will change unless you really want to. So in contrast, what happens when we have a pure consciousness? We are able to project a vision for humanity. These are the sankalpas that we are making, that we have in our heartfulness system. Let everyone be at peace or in osmosis with the source, that we are all developing right thinking, understanding. Then the soul, it is so happy, it shines forth, and its faculty of creation and imagination, it actually becomes potentized. It happens, we are creating that vibrations. And the subtle bodies and the soul then work together and create this Vrittis in the correct way from within us, and we are helping or sharing in that work, that we have all joined this system and we want to share in the Master's work. This is one way, and this is what happens. So that is about Vikalpa. Right, it is about 8:16. All right, we will continue. And does anybody need a break? Everybody okay? Can I see any thumbs or all without faces lah? So should I continue, or do you want a break now and then continue and then straight into? It's 8:17 now, right? Brother, I can't hear you. Brother Ramesh?
I think unless if there's anybody who feels that we need to take a short break, you can take. Okay, they say continue.
Is it?
So let's
Can you
continue.
see a chat? Is it?
Yes, on the chat.
Okay, some I put continue. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So
You all the rest are followers. I think Sister Ramani needs to be told that please off a video. Could somebody do that? It's very distracting. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next. So, sorry. Just 1 second, please. Okay, so we will go on to sleep. Sleep is the vritti that takes us deepest and closest to our center, our soul. And we do this every night of our lives, from the time we are in the womb until the time of our death. So Patanjali says, deep sleep is a subtle thought pattern that embraces nothingness. The negation of thought patterns is defined by the absence of content. So all manifest life seems to require a period of sleep, of calm, in which to gain added strength and vigor. This is by Swami Vivekananda. So deep sleep is a subtle thought pattern that embraces nothingness. We touch the soul, actually, and we nourish the soul, and we feel as rejuvenated by meditation as we do by sleep. So generally, it's better to sleep early, right? And to be in tune with the natural cycles. And on the night that you miss a good sleep, then you can observe your own self, how you're going to carry out the activities the next day. And so why do we need sleep? It's very rejuvenating, and we need to heal and restore our body, and emotions become balanced. And we are also more creative compared to when we don't have sleep. Delta waves is the main thing. As you know, it's the slowest wave. And when we rest, when this wave goes on, that's when we are actually rejuvenating ourselves. Freshness comes out of deep sleep. Right. In deep sleep, our brain waves, we are going to slow down almost to zero. And there's very minimal activity. The delta wave, as I already said, is very rejuvenating, it's very refreshing. There's minimal activity, and the stillness is there in our mental process. So at all other times, except during samadhi, we have thoughts, but not during deep sleep. Samadhi and deep sleep, what is it? Is it different? It's not all that different, except in samadhi, we can be aware. In deep sleep, in heartfulness, it is beautifully described as a state of higher ignorance or perfect ignorance. We are very close to God at that time, resting in the soul, and we experience joy and bliss, but without knowing it. So at the time we are on the verge of absolute nothingness. I think when we get the state of Turiya, we may be aware, but most of the time we are just ignorant and we don't know we are resting with God. Consciousness is a function of the mind, whereas in Sushupti, we are right in the very center of our existence, beyond the mind and in the realm of the soul. At this time, the body and mind, they don't create any waves, they are not demanding anything, and we withdraw into that soul. So this deep sleep state in yoga is known as Sushupti, and the fully aware state of Samadhi, which is Sahaj Samadhi, or the Turiya state. The Turiya state in heartfulness, it can happen in the very first meditation itself because of the effects of yogic transmission. While our body is relaxed and then our mind, perceives things, we are not sleeping, but we are actually in a very relaxed state. And then we learn how to take that condition out into daily life with our eyes open. So that is Sahaj Samadhi. When we meditate with a rested mind, we'll have a better grip over the consciousness, plus AIOU. And when we meditate well, we'll be able to dive into deep states with awareness into Sahaj Samadhi. Right. So when we talked about Turiya just not being aware in Samadhi and in sleep, deep sleep also. And when we transcend the Turiya state to Turiya, that means we carry that deep meditative state within us all the time. Whatever we are doing, it is there all the time. So it happens when we are able to let go of all, again, those vrittis, the colorings, and because of our practice. So this can happen. The masters have told us many times. So let us try to work towards that. Then our waking and our deep sleep state, they are no different. We are not restless. So to simplify, we can say this, that consciousness and plus thinking is a waking state, Jagrata. Unconsciousness and thinking, you are dreaming, that is Swapna. Unconsciousness without thinking is deep sleep or Shusupti and death. And consciousness plus minus thinking is Saj Samadhi or Turiya. Practice is the key. So this is about sleep, and all this you are able to witness. You are witness. Okay, now we will go to the last one, which is memory. Memory, Smriti or memory. Okay, try to imagine life without memory. Is it a gift or is it a trouble? Sometimes both is what I think. So when your forgetfulness and this remembering, it's given by God. So if we can't forget things also, we will go mad. And so it's best to live in the present. So that is our work to, as we said, leave all, we let all what we have to leave off, to just live in the present. And we know that everything is transitory except the absolute reality. So there would be no shared memories like this, man and the baby. There would be, our chance of survival without memory would be zero, I think. We'll be going, forgetting, we'll go meet the accident and go back and meet the accident, or burn yourself and keep burning. So we need that memory. And memory is a primitive function of consciousness, fundamental to our existence. This is in order so that we can survive. So creating memory is laying down the experience in form of vibrational patterns in the field of consciousness. So these are known as impressions or samskaras. So memory and samskaras. Memory is when the vrittis of perceived subjects, they don't slip away. Instead, they keep on making impressions, which can come back again to consciousness, from subconscious back to consciousness. That is Patanjali's words. And memory is just recalling the past experiences through impressions which have settled in the consciousness. So why do memories hold us back? There are two reasons. Because we remember the emotional charge that we had in that memory, and we accumulate experiences because the likes and dislikes we attach to them. So, and we keep them. We like this memory and it's there, and we don't know that it is holding us back. And we dislike their memory and we also keep it because of that emotional charge that we really need to relive. And that also holds us back. So second is that we create habits or behavioral tendencies because of those associations. And we lose neuroplasticity because we are making it into a habit again. So if you're a little boy and you had those tantrums when you're young, and then you found, your mother paid you attention. Then when you're an adult and you may decide to continue those tantrums with your wife or whoever, and then it's an adult drama, and for attention and to get what you want. So these patterns become very fixed, and most of the time we are doing it unconsciously because it is there and subconscious comes out. So what is neuroplasticity? Means that in the brain's ability to change, to modify, to adapt the structure throughout our life in response to our experiences. So it's never a dead end. You can still, they said you cannot, you cannot teach old dogs tricks, but still you can. I mean, if that old dog is a human, then you can teach them new tricks. So compare this with children, whose minds are there still and fresh and clear. And so they are so full of life and they're so full of wonder. And so they're open in their approach and to the world, and they're not bogged down by all these memories. And there's nothing tainting their worldview. When I'm just looking at this, I was just reading a heart note today, a heart note by Babuji. I think he was laughing at an Abhyasi who wrote to him that his children disturb him so much, I think, during meditation. So he said, why are you, I'm laughing to read that your children, you're getting annoyed, anger vritti, annoyance vritti, just because your children are, mischievous. He said, children are, naturally, they are mischievous at that age, small children. So I said, why don't you take a walk? Why don't you take a walk and go outside to the garden or the temple or somewhere and you do your meditation in that place? Very good advice, I think. So we need to adjust. Rather than throwing up our drama, we need to adjust to our family and circumstances. So laying down the experience in form of vibrational patterns, in the form of consciousness. Again, this is about samskaras. Remembering is the recalling of those stored memories. And it keeps on happening, remembering, forming, remembering, recalling, and it goes on and on. So we build up this library of impressions that, that interact with each other, create real and also imaginary memories. Then we add some paint color on it, and we add some emotions on it. And, even when we get up from sleep, sometimes we had something that we remembered, or maybe a dream or something we remember. We are still not sure whether we are, it's real or was it imaginary, but it will still affect our activities. Maybe you dreamt of something and you'll think, better not do this, and yet you're not sure, or maybe you thought you dreamt, or maybe you thought something. So that much of the memory affects us. So we have that relationship of cause and effect to be played out, even though there's a gap in location, time, and state of life. So that means we are going for continuity. We may die and be reborn into another body at another time, another place, but that is only death of the body. Subtle bodies and the soul, they carry on, and they carry these impressions around with them from one life to another. And there's a very nice, important teaching by Babuji, and he advised that what should concern us is the future. That will be affected by our present action. So immediate past present is of no more consequence than the distant present, past I mean. Distant past or immediate past, no difference. So think that all past actions to be just of a past life. Is being very kind. Whatever even you may have done something, just think it is from the past life. And this will make it easy to ignore it and concentrate on future spiritual development. Do not put a hurdle to your future spiritual development because you're feeling bad or guilty or something. We have all the practices to deal with all this, but the memory is there. So you just think of it as it is from a past life. Chariji actually mentioned this in My Master, his book, and he said it is an important teaching for Abhyasis. So we should remember that. Right. So of all the types of consciousness that we see, only the original state that is uncovered in meditation, it is free of impressions and desires. It exists without any support and without any motivation. That the stillness exists without any support. It is only once we transcend the mind in samadhi, then there's no need for rebirth. Bringing back to my first story, we are then liberated because there's no more desires to be fulfilled. we have already reached that original state. So this original state is the goal of yoga. We aspire to uncover what existed before creation. It is the state of samadhi, a state without thought. We are only witnessing. We transcended that mind already. So that's why yoga cannot be associated, it says, with any belief or religion, or because religions require language, they have belief, they have dogma. Because original state has no language, it is beyond all this. So we do not associate it with any religion, yoga. And for permanent change, you have to the samskaras or energy knots have to be removed. Those energies in all those knots, I think we have learned all that. I won't be going into that. And they are the ones that are making an impression on you, causing those vrittis. And as soon they will again re-emerge whenever the condition is conducive, out again the vrittis. So we have good news that through the practice of yoga, we can bring it down to an end. Heartfulness practice of cleaning, which works deeply at the innermost level, removing the root. So effects disappear with the causes. So here, the witness, as Buddha said, he expressed his idea that he used the witness is right memory. The term used for meditation, the idea of the witness is right memory. The emotional charge of your likes and dislikes is removed through the meditative practices and lifestyle changes of heartfulness. And we learn how to witness instead of observe, and we don't let the mind interfere. So this energy is released actually from the being bound up in desires there, and with their release, those vibrational knots, complexities also, they are removed, and those vrittis also subside. So we can go up higher and higher with the expansion of consciousness, and then it is illuminated, and we can, with transmission there, of course. And what was super conscious, above consciousness now, it's also illuminated into our consciousness. So that's why the expansion into super consciousness and subconscious also. So here, there is the importance of the heart. Only through the heart-based practice, we can learn to master our emotions or arrive at uncolored real memory. So there is no mechanism in the mind to distinguish reality and truthfulness. The heartfulness practices that we experience, the heart as a subtle organ that tells us what is real, what is not real, what is right, Pramana, what is wrong, and what is imagination. All this, it is from the heart. The heart is the one that speaks to us. So the inference is very profound that by listening to the heart, we discover that voice of conscience, and it becomes very clear. We develop viveka. And all this happens only when the heart is pure and when the field of consciousness is pure. So the controlled, peaceful mind and well-wisher mind is my friend, and it can deal with all the issues outside. So remember, there's always the pause. During that pause, it's a time for you to quieten the vrittis of the Viparyaya, or having too much fantasy, and come back to the Pramana, or right knowledge. So I think I've come to the end of my talk. We have covered all 5. Thank you very much. And so we will take a break now, Brother Ramesh. Is Brother Ramesh there? Oh. Sister Ramani, we will take a break now since you're the. I can see that you're there. Can you unmute yourself, Sister Ramani?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can take a
So
break.
yeah, I think it's Ramesh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Thank
I've
you,
said, yeah.
Dr. Shanti, for very inspiring, enlightening, and insightful session you had with us. I must say the graphical illustrations that you have carefully selected.
You like my slides, huh? I can I think you're frozen. I can't hear you, brother. So okay. I can't hear you. So if everybody can hear me, we'll take a break. Sister Rami is okay, right? You can put it on the chat. We'll take a break, and we'll come back at 8:50. Is it?
8:55.
Yes, perfect.
So please do join back, and at around 8:50. Is that okay?
Okay, sister.
Before don't leave. Just put. Just go and do whatever. Have some drink or have your water, and back again at 8:50. We'll finish off with the universal prayer, and will be a good end. Good evening to everyone. I'll just tell you that in the whispers, Babaji talks about the importance of prayer. Could you mute yourself, please, Sister Santira and Sister Satya Vijay? Please mute yourselves. Thank you. Okay, mute yourself. Mute. Okay, thank you. Right. So Babaji talks about the importance of prayer. He says prayers are not useless. The one we recommend for 9 p.m. is important, and it remains a point of rendezvous across the world, a common thread between people dedicated to the quest of the divine, creating the vibration that is conducive to the work of the incarnate master. As a field of vibratory intention, we can send love, devotion, and faith to all in this universe, and it will surely come back multifold. And for ourselves, we also definitely need prayers. So when we send out it in a united way, it will definitely come back multifold, he says. So just let in, it's another 5 minutes. We can just center ourselves. let us sit comfortably. Just get ready, sit comfortably. And let us close our eyes and relax. Bring your awareness to your heart. And connect to your deepest part of the heart. Connect to the core of your heart. In a state of humbleness and prayer. We are connecting with the source. Let us also connect gently with each other's hearts. To all those who are present here. And be united as one heart. And as one heart, let us make the following intentions. And let us re-emphasize them as we go along in a supplicant mood. All sisters and brothers throughout the world are being filled with love and devotion, and that real faith is growing stronger in them, in their hearts. All sisters and brothers throughout the world are being filled with love and devotion, and that real faith is growing stronger in their hearts. there be truth, righteousness, and faith in the entire world. May all kinds of distractions that exist in my country and the world and be removed. May there be truth, righteousness, and faith in the entire world. May all kinds of distractions that exist in my country and in the world be removed. All sisters and brothers throughout the world are becoming peace-loving and they are attracting peace into their hearts. May the entire globe be engulfed with peace and love and with divine grace. All brothers and sisters throughout the world are becoming peace-loving and they are attracting peace into their hearts. May the entire globe be engulfed with peace and love and with divine grace. All sisters and brothers are developing peace in their hearts. They are radiating this peace outside. Peace, love, devotion, and faith is growing stronger in their hearts. All sisters and brothers are developing peace in their hearts. They are radiating this peace outside. Peace, love, devotion, and faith is growing stronger in their hearts. This brings us to the end of the universal prayer. You may open your eyes when you are ready.